back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books.
Hi everyone, Steve here, and I'm hijacking the channel a little bit for a video of my own this time. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 books that I read in 2020. Now, a lot of these were recommended to me by Kitty, and I shamelessly stole them off the bookshelves behind me. That's mainly because I've only, in the past few years since knowing Kitty, only got round to reading SFF at that point. So mostly before then I was reading a lot of non-fiction, so sort of opened my eyes to the world of SFF really. So let's get started with the first one. So the first book that I read that I really thoroughly enjoyed was Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and this book is about how humanity has sort of conquered death really, and now to control the population there's these people who are scythes who effectively glean people, which is a nicer way of saying killing people, to control the population. And it's a story about 2 people who go on an adventure effectively in terms of training to become a scythe. So the whole overarching story and the way that it sort of twists and turns throughout, and just the whole narrative of the idea that people just jump off buildings for fun and things like that because they know they'll be revived. It's quite a surreal way of looking at it when you know how valuable your life is as a human being in reality. So it was really interesting to me, the concept, and there was some light-hearted fun moments throughout as well. So overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So the second book that I thoroughly enjoyed in 2020 was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This was a series that was recommended to me pretty much straight away as soon as I started reading SFF, and I can easily see why. Just the whole story and the character building, and also like how the relationships between the characters evolves throughout the story, and also like the fact that it's a lot about friendship rather than a romantic subplot, for example, which I really like. I appreciate like a solid story based on sort of friendship and camaraderie. So there was that, and also just the interactions between the characters, the world building as well. Obviously that comes even more into play as you go further through the series. So in terms of a starting point for SFF, I'd definitely recommend this series as a whole, and the fact that in only a couple of weeks' time the 4th in the series is going to be on shelves, there's no better time to get into this series. So the third book that I thoroughly enjoyed in 2020 was the third in this series, the Lady Astronaut series by Mary Robinette Kowal, which is The Relentless Moon. And again, this is another series that I really enjoyed in 2019. And then in 2020, the third book in the series was released, and this takes a different perspective in that you're looking through the eyes of a different character in the same world while some of the events of the second book are still happening. It's not right to call it a retelling from a different perspective because it also goes into areas of time where events happened that haven't happened in the second book yet or have since passed. So it's sort of going along that same time period. So again, I really like this story, and the fact that it has a lot more tension and there's a lot more at stake, it feels like, in this one, because there's sort of high stakes environments and situations that they're going through. Overall, thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes next. So the 4th book in the list that I wanted to talk about was The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. And this is, well, a trilogy, His Dark Materials, that I've been waiting so long to get into and just putting it off, keep looking at the shelf, on the shelf, and just not getting around to doing it because it's... I don't know why it took me so long, because I've owned copies of the book since I was younger, but I just don't know why I didn't read them. And now that I've read them, I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. Just the whole story and how it just builds up the characters. When you've got Lyra and you've got Will, and even in the Amber Spyglass you've got the other characters who are brought in at that point, and just how all their stories just come to a head in that last story, in the last book. is just what I really enjoy, and it just seems to all reach that finale in that particular book, which it's great. And I know that lots of people sing praises about this story already, but again, can't recommend the trilogy enough, and the TV series is well worth a watch. Finally, the last book that I really enjoyed in 2020, I've talked about it before on this channel, but I'm going to talk about it again because I enjoyed it so much. It's The Gift of Rain by Tan Twaneng, and this, it's not SFF, I would say it's historical fiction more, but just the whole world and the style of writing that the author has in this, and also just the relationships between the main character and their mentor, and how that evolved over the course of the events in the book, and how that just took a turn when certain things happened and new information came out, and they learned more about each other as things went on. It just made it a really beautiful read, and definitely one of my favourite stories that I've read in a long time. So I'm looking forward to diving into more from this author over the next year. So yeah, definitely my favourite book that I read last year. And that is it. So that's all my favourites from last year. There's more books that I read last year that probably got equal ratings, but if I was to call out 5, they would be them. Obviously, I've got more books to read this year. I'm sort of targeting the same number, but we'll see if we get there. Anyway, that's all for now, and I'll probably see you in another video. Who knows when? Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.